Yeah, so thank you for having some time left for going through one of the initiatives that we are doing in Denmark and been working on for the past couple of years. As stated before, I'm heading this organization called Young Shareholders of Denmark, which is a part of a large organization, Shareholders of Denmark, who fight for investor rights and financial literacy across Denmark. So the youth division came together with our Swedish counterpart and looked at a project that they have been running for many years with great success. And so we got inspiration for them for this project, and the success of this project is a lot due to their knowledge and insights which we could build upon. So I guess my goal with this short presentation is to inspire you guys to see if you can do something in your local nations, or you have similar programs, or you have programs that would maybe adjust or fit in some of the thoughts and learnings that we have been gotten throughout the last years. So essentially what this boils down to is that in Denmark, there is still, as with many countries, a big taboo, especially for young people to talk about money and especially investments. In the curriculum of the schools and the high schools, they are controlled on a central level. There is nothing specifically to financial literacy for the education, except if you choose yourself to pursue a financial education. And then obviously you learn something, but you learn more about, you could say, the national finance, business finance, more than your own personal finance. So I think this is really key, a key missing part in the Danish society. We don't pursue financial literacy, and we don't dictate that this is actually part of being educated and growing up, and that you need to know these things. So we created a separate program, not to be associated too much with stocks, because I think people, especially in Denmark, have prejudice against stock and investment. So we wanted to move more into personal finance, and so we created a new program for that. And when you ask young people if they would like to learn more about this, it's a very clear yes. So Sweden had the most data, and that was kind of the theory that we based this project out on. So 94% says that's right. We would like to learn more about this in school. And quite clear similar image is present here in Denmark. So we also have around 94 to 95% of students that we ask says, yes, I would like to learn more about this, or I should have learned about it in school. So the student wants it. So I think it's quite obvious to move forward with this. So I won't go too much into all these slides, but essentially our core mission and vision here is to allow everyone, regardless of their background and where they come from, to have the same accessibility to sharing and investing and creating the desired financial future for themselves. I think that is not always the case today. It's not a goal of ours to necessarily have everyone to invest or to buy bonds or to acquire a house or to do anything. We just want to make sure you have financial understanding to make the decision that is right for you. So that is our core message to the students. And so essentially to succeed, we would really like this to be part of the curriculum going forward. So we are pushing for that in our work, but until that point in time, we are doing the job, essentially traveling around the nation and educating high schoolers on financial literacy. And I will share a little bit about that right now. So we have started this project since 2023 with a pilot, and then scaled up since then. And last year we educated around 5,500 students, on track this year to educate 8,000. And this is a lot of students for a small country like Denmark. So around 15% of all freshmen we have educated last year. And so, of course, our goal is as of now to target around 18,000 students in 2028. So we would get to around third of all students every year that will be educated by our program. But of course, it's kind of like we do this, but we would also like policymakers to say and have a look at this and say, okay, the students want it. Financial literacy is good. This should really be a requirement, because right now it's very much down to the teacher thinking that this is a good idea. We would like a visit from someone who knows something about financial education and literacy and teach my class. And I think that is too big of a risk as a society that we take, that just to allow that to the individual student or the individual teacher, that my class should actually be taught something like this, just the fundamentals. So we have had great success with this, actually partnering up with some of the largest high schools. So now we are part of the whole onboarding program. So when in Denmark you start high school, you actually get a visit from us. And we go in and talk a bit about your personal finances. It's very important for us that this is not just in the main capital cities, because where we see the biggest impact and the biggest difference is actually outside the big cities, right? So it's in smaller regions. It's where you have one little local school. It's where parents are not that well off, and we see a very clear correlation. If your parents have a good economy and good at investing and are financially educated, there's a big chance you also will be, right? Because it's today it's a lot of the parents' job, and I think it still should be, but it should not only be. So for us, it's also part of our DNA and mission to visit the small towns nationally to get out to everyone, essentially. So this is kind of our theory behind our financial education and financial literacy and how we approach it. I think it's quite important that we meet the students at eye level. I think I love Global Money Week. We had it last week, so we a little bit early in Denmark. I want to do this every week, and that's what we do with our program. Money Week every week is our slogan. But I think it's important that there's a big difference about who you talk to and how student meets us, depending on who it is that are educating the class. With that, I mean, students and young people today, when we ask them, get a lot of their financial inspiration and knowledge from their peers, right? So it's the classmates, it's their friends, because when you get an authority figure like a teacher or like a parent, it becomes more commanding. It becomes another thing. It doesn't become this buddy effect that I think youth are actually looking for. And we are trying to take that role with our educators that are typically people who just finished high school themselves or just started university. So typically 3 or 4 years older than the students actually are. And you get a way different class dynamic with that. So again, it's about meeting students at the eye level, but also being relatable to the students themselves. And then you get this back and forth communication and not just a big lecture. And I also think it's important for us, and something we have learned throughout the program, to acknowledge that the difference in audience plays a big role. We talked a bit about gender differences today. We talked a bit about difference in background and how that affects financial literacy. And I think even though the difference might be small, I think the edge cases make up a big difference, especially when we see young men and young females that we talk to, often 16 or 17 years old. I think the class dynamic is important to take into a perspective. So really here, there's a big role for the educator to play, because you need to analyze your audience. You need to know a little bit about them before you can actually engage with them in a proper way and motivate them to really want to learn. Because let's be honest, a lot of people in high school go there to meet their friends, and maybe they have one subject they like, and the rest of the day, maybe they play around with their phone, right? So, I mean, this is a big job to motivate people to really say, okay, financial literacy and education is actually something you should really care about, because this is your goals in life. This is what you can actually achieve. Like, what do you save up to? You want to travel the world, you want to acquire a home, you want to start a family at some point. All these goals, all these dreams you have as a young person are really closely tied to what we are going to talk about now. So I think that motivation and knowing the audience are super, super important. And I think for the teachers, I think Mr. White here touched a little bit upon it in the conversation I had with him, is that we don't have any commercial interests in going out here. So we see some of the financial institutions, banks and brokers also trying to go out to schools. And sometimes when they do that, they present their own products. They go through a short KYC or introduction or something like that. Obviously, you want more customers, so it's kind of, partly they do it for the financial education, but also partly because everyone wants customers, right? So I think we are truly independent in this space. So I think the financial educator should be very transparent, at least with what they are doing and where they come from when you go out and educate young people. So that was some perspectives on our approach to financial literacy. Just to touch super shortly on what we cover, because what is financial literacy? What is covered in our lecture? This is some of the big themes. We have 1.5 hours, again, because this is just on the goodwill of the teacher, basically saying this is important to me and my class. So it's very limited what we manage to teach and have a dialogue with the students about. Luckily, we see many teachers actually, saying, "Okay, come back in 2 weeks again, because I think this was really good. Let's talk more about it." But the teachers have curriculum to cover as well, so they need to fit us in. But the goal for us is, again, not to have someone necessarily to start to invest or know everything about ETFs or something like that. It's to just have learned the words, learned the golden rules of, what you invest in, risk management. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. You shouldn't buy that crypto education course or whatever. So some of these things is what we are trying to push. And we combine it with learning in action by we do some activities in class, like the class has to combine their own ETF. So essentially you pick stocks from companies. It doesn't have to be listed, because you probably don't know what listing really means, or being listed on a stock exchange. So products you use in your everyday, and we combine them in a portfolio. We analyze it together and see, okay, what is risk management really? How can you diversify and so forth? What is sustainability when you talk about investing? Does that feel right to you? What do you save up for? Loans and debt. I think many people have a fear of debt, and you need to know when to use it and when it can be beneficial for you. So there's a lot of subjects we touch upon, but it all comes down to that you also, again, know your audience a bit. You have engaged with the teacher. You have done some research on the school, because some places, some schools in a very wealthy area, we start by asking the class how many already own stocks, and 95% of the class already own stocks and sit and trade them in the lunch break. Okay, we need to start somewhere else. So I think it's about engaging the class early, doing your research and knowing your audience. It's key to really succeeding in such a short session and actually have a meaningful and fruitful conversation with your students. So last slide is just, I think it's really important also to measure this. That's what we do. It's hard to get data points on young investors and regarding young personal finance and so forth, especially because we educate people from sometimes 15 to 16, 17, and 18. And so it's some unique insights we get. I think a lot of what the students are saying is that they like the young to young kind of format that we see eye to eye. We explain things on a down-to-earth way, but if you want to, expand on your knowledge. We have programs where you can learn more. I think that has worked out quite well. So at least this is our rating. I expose here 4.5 from 0.5, 4.7 rather, which I think is quite great. So we continue to measure and improve with every time we are visiting the schools, and that's what we do in the meantime while we wait for policymakers to also think that should not just be optional. This is actually us taking care of the next generation of young people, that this should be mandatory in schools and high schools. So that was all I had to share in a speed run of what we do in Denmark in regards to financial education and literacy in schools and high schools.